old are you?
I'm 30.
Okay. So you're no longer attractive.
Hey, thanks for stopping by for the first ever upload on my channel, TV Debris. Today we're going to be looking at Love is Blind Season 8, Episode 1. I've always kind of had a guilty pleasure for watching other garbage reality TV shows such as 90 Day Fiancé, Love After Lockup, and I think that there's a lot of humor that can be found within the shows and the way that these people are represented on television. So I hope that you enjoy watching with me and we can laugh together. Nick and Vanessa Lachey appear and they ask all the guys and gals why they chose to come to this experiment, because experiment sounds a lot better than trashy reality TV show. Cast member Vanessa says that she's just perceived as standoffish because she has a lot of tattoos of butterflies and flowers, and on the male side, a guy named Daniel says that he's there because he's just too short. The pods open up and one lady starts full on sprinting to the door, and then they give us a glimpse of all the contestants meeting each other for the first time. And one of my favorite one-liners comes from a guy named Tom who's on a date with Yemi. He asks her where she's from, and when she responds, he says this:
You have a beautiful Costco out there.
there's a woman named Meg who enters the pod for her date with a guy named David. David is a total red flag, but like we'll get to all that later. I swear, when Meg came in, I was like, I can't tell if she's like manic, nervous, trying to be quirky, or what it is, but I was like, something is off with this girl, and I feel like she might be a problem in the future. Let me know what you guys think.
I came from Mars.
Little Daniel is back, and in his video confessional, he basically just talks more about being short and parrots what Vanessa Lachey said about a woman who wants a guy that's tall. Just isn't the woman for him. Oh, and he's 5'8", if you were curious. Little Daniel's next date is with a woman named Taylor. I'm pretty sure she's actually the same lady that almost snapped an ankle running to the pods. He goes into, trying to be deep and tells her that his sister is blind, and so, he knows love is blind because he grew up watching his sister love unconditionally. And Taylor just kind of goes, yeah, 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 the whole time. So that was that date. There's a brief second where Taylor is on a date with a guy named Brad who is a dentist, but they don't really show much, so I'm guessing Brad doesn't last long. I don't know. But then it shows Taylor with a guy named Ben on a date, and when asked what she does, she tells him that she's a GI nurse and to hit her up if he ever needs a colonoscopy. The next date that they show us is between Devin and Brittany. It's hard for me to break up that name when I'm so used to saying Brittany. Devin and Britt. And pretty much the whole time they discuss basketball, which is something they have in common, but like I don't care about any sports really, so that was just kind of like want to me. But they seem to hit it off great, so I guess we'll see what happens with them in the future. Devin's next date is with a woman named Virginia. They find out that they went to the same high school, just a few years apart. Like, she graduated before he did. He talks about being a foodie. She says she's also a foodie. They both like restaurants. He says he has like 10,000 pairs of shoes. And they speak more about basketball, which is meh. Also, let me know if this is just me, but whenever I look at Devin's side profile, all I can think about is Shake from one of the previous seasons. I can't remember exactly which season he was on, but he was with Deepti. Thank God she got away from him because he was like the biggest scumbag ever. But I can't stop thinking about Shake whenever I see the side of Devin's head. We're then introduced to Joey and Monica. I'm not sure really what to make of either of them yet. Joey seems like he might just be trying to be chill, and Monica seems like she's super, super nervous. He asks what makes her comfortable, and she says she likes to nap, which personally, I don't know how if you're uncomfortable, you could just close your eyes and head off to bed. But I think it might more so be the White Claw she's holding that's going to make her more comfortable. I could be wrong, but that's my guess. Then after the date ends, they go into a video confessional with her, and she talks about how one of the guys she was dating asked her to watch his cat, and he went on a vacation trip. He came back, and then that was it. So I hope she at least charged him, because it is not free to pet sit, especially if he's going to pull a stunt like that. Oh, and Joey said he has a sister that passed away, but he doesn't get too deep into that. Next, we have Dave. Dave. He is a piece of work. He starts off making like all these shitty jokes about what's wrong with you? Or I have an OnlyFans account, thinking he's funny and quick-witted, but really he just comes off like a fucking asshole. He also is the guy that is in the first clip I put in the very beginning of this video, where he says to his date, "How old are you?" And she says she's 30, and he tells her she's no longer attractive. He goes on into his confessional to talk about how he works as essentially like an esthetician or in the office for one, and he is surrounded by what women should be to be beautiful, essentially, and that he's only ever cared about looks, and like he's surrounded by lip injections and Botox and all that stuff, and he wants to prove to himself that he's not just a shallow piece of shit. The first date we really see of Dave's, other than the little clips of him being oh so charming to the other women, is with Lauren. They discuss where they are in life, and she says that, timing is everything, yada, yada, yada. And he asks what she does, and she says that she sells social studies curriculums to schools, and that she used to be a teacher and stopped because she didn't make enough money. And they go into talking about how nurses and teachers are underpaid. And I can't help but feel like Dave is being super insincere when he's discussing that conversation, because we already know that a lot of nurses and a lot of teachers are female, and he, being the type of person he is, I really don't think he genuinely cares. Lauren also brings up how her dad has a plaque that says the best thing a father can do for his children is love their mother. And I sincerely hope she does not end up with Dave, because if that's what she's looking for, this is absolutely not that guy. The next date that they show is between Dave and a woman named Molly, who has said that she never had a boyfriend before, and I think it's kind of wild that if she truly hasn't ever had a boyfriend before, she's ready to quick jump into marriage with somebody from a reality TV show, but that's a whole nother thing. So their date, it really didn't consist of anything much worth noting, other than, I guess, at one point Dave's mother had breast cancer and she ended up passing away, and they both talk about having videos of their parents dancing at weddings on their cell phones. But other than that, they say they like each other, but their first date, at least what we saw of it, really wasn't much. Oh, and I thought this was funny too. In Molly's confessional, she says, "I might meet my first boyfriend and my first husband." And I love how she's already figured out the fact that even if she gets married here, it's likely just going to be her first husband.
You can be my first husband and first boyfriend.
Everybody goes back to their quarters of the house, and they're all talking about how they liked their dates, or everybody was so sweet, everybody was so kind, and Molly makes a comment about how she really likes Dave, and I'm just thinking, God help you, please don't end up with Dave. Nobody deserves to end up with Dave. It's the next morning, and we're introduced to Alex, who opens up with a story about how he was bullied in high school, and when he told a girl he liked her, she started laughing at him, and all of her friends started laughing at him. So his solution was to go and eat lunch in the bathroom, which I don't know, that seems kind of weird to me that you would just go eat lunch in a bathroom because somebody laughed at you. I'm not 100% sure I buy that story. That doesn't seem to make much sense to me. I don't know if it's like an editing cut or something like that, but I don't think that being laughed at turns into eating in the bathroom on a toilet. But that's neither here nor there. I personally think he looks like a Keebler elf. Alex's first date that we see is with a woman named Madison, and it starts off pretty basic, just discussing like where she used to go after college. It was like maybe during college, Paris and Jordan, and right after that it goes into like an immediate like trauma dump session. And like maybe I'm being insensitive, and maybe they've been on a lot more dates than it's shown, but it seemed very abrupt and odd that she just started pouring all of this out to him. I don't know. Maybe that's the point of the experiment, but I felt like it felt a little like she wanted that to stick out to him, that she's been hurt, and I'm not really sure if that came across to other people that way or not. That's just how I saw it. And she talks about how, it's important for her to have family in the future because her mother was a drug addict and her stepfather overdosed on drugs, and how she wants to break those generational curses in the future. And then Alex says that he had a rough family background too, but not as rough as hers. And he goes into talking about how he was bullied at school again, which to me, like, that's not your family issues, that's issues at school. But I thought it was funny because all of a sudden he was talking about bullies at school pushing his lunch tray off the table, and so he would go and sit in the bathroom. So I'm not sure if it was editing before, but it feels funny to me that before it was because a girl rejected him that he went and ate on the toilet, and now it's people didn't want him at their table, which is like, is it just because you were a dorky kid? Because I was a dorky kid. I've seen a lot of dorky kids, and they didn't really get their shit knocked off the table for being a dork. But I don't know. And so he goes into talking about how he had problems in school and essentially, I think he said dropped out or flunked out, and then his parents kicked him out. So I was like, okay, I guess it's coming full circle back to the problems at home. But it was really odd because he was just like, yeah, I had home issues, and then went into being bullied at school. Madison's next date is with a guy named Mason, and they seem to hit it off just fine as well. I don't know if Alex is going to stay number one on her list, or if she just is, exploring the experiment or trying to have a backup plan. But they bond over both enjoying Green Bay Packers, and she talks about how she had a brother that passed away, and she wore a jersey that was his to one of the games to feel like she was taking him with her. And they discuss more of their family. Mason has a sister with children that he's close to, and they talk about their work background, and he's a cinematographer and she's an artist, so they both are happy that the other one is the creative type. So we'll see how this one goes. I'm also adding a little clip of Mason in his confessional after his date with Madison because I think it's kind of funny.
It's kind of like creating someone who doesn't exist.
They exist, Mason. Okay, so it's finally starting to pick up since Meg is back. I love her right now. I think she's the most interesting person on the show just because she's kind of a little bit of a loon. She starts off talking about how she's so excited to talk to Mason and see him again, and how she thinks he's super cool. And they go through all like the stupid basic normal talk, and then she starts kind of going off the rails a little bit. She brings up how she saw a Joe Rogan podcast once, and the guy was talking about, first he was talking about how there's people that pour aluminum into like ant hills so that they can pull out the ant hills and look at the intricacies and the like tunnel systems that the ants make. But then she says this, and it's been my favorite part of the entire show so far. Make sure you look at her eyes at the very end of this clip.
Once you reach a certain energy and certain power, you can actually control the weather. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, what if natural disasters to us are like superior beings?
Yeah.
Just like experimenting with us like we experiment with ants.
See, those are the pieces of cinematic gold that keep me coming back to watch this kind of television, because she is so funny without trying to be funny that it's just killing me right now. And I swear if nobody proposes to Meg, production needs to force somebody to, just so that she could stay on for later bits of the show, like when they go on vacation and are in the homes and everything. I can't wait to see if she ends up with a guy, what his parents are going to think of her, and if she'll like tone it back, reel it in, if she gets less nervous. But I hope she doesn't lose this spark, because she is absolutely the most interesting part of this show right now. And it cracks me up too, because at the very end she's talking about how much she likes Mason, and he says, "I'm so happy," and he just does not look happy at all. I'll include the clip. So I'm like, I feel like this guy is saying this out of obligation because this chick with such big energy is on the other side of the wall.
I can't even begin to explain how happy I am.
He seemed thrilled, didn't he? So Dave is back for the next date, and it's him and Molly again. And it starts off by her making a joke about how if he snores, she'll just smother him with a pillow. And then it goes into them talking about scary movies and how she's afraid of the exorcism type movies because in Catholic school she had to watch a video on a real exorcism, and how her teacher said that if you invite a demon or the devil in, that this could happen to you. And it just makes me laugh because it's like, no, that's just probably somebody with mental illness being treated like an animal, but that's okay. That's a whole different story for a different day. But then, of course, he uses his crappy OnlyFans joke to segue the conversation into their personal preferences in the bedroom and how is she a leader or follower and blah, 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 blah. So they seem to be hitting it off good, which really sucks. I hope Molly doesn't end up with him, but at least if she does, he'll only be her first husband. She can get more later. Oh, and in the beginning of the date, he's like, "Oh, you sound just like my ex-girlfriend." And I think that's cute. And it's just like, girl, run. The next date is with Lauren and David again. And they don't really talk about too much that's interesting during their date. He brings up his sister, who he's close with, and he says that she's protective of him and she's like a motherly figure. Lauren mentions that she has an older brother and 2 younger brothers. And then David talks about how he's in a book club that he listens to an audiobook for, and that he is great at reading but struggles with comprehension. And I'm not sure that surprises anybody, really. But other than that, there wasn't really much to discuss. They just spoke a lot about his sister. It was a rather boring date. The next date is little Daniel and Taylor again, and they don't really talk about much other than the fact that they clearly like each other and that they think about each other when they're on other dates. And Daniel says that he has a tradition where he makes crazier and crazier Christmas cards every year, and that he hopes that his future wife and potential children will keep that tradition going with him. The only other thing worth noting really is that Taylor's voice like almost completely disappeared. She sounds like really rasp and hoarse, and like it really hurts her to talk. But she says it doesn't. She says it doesn't hurt, so that's good. It just is really shitty that she's on TV and her voice decided to take a shit. And if I had to make a bet, I'd say that little Daniel and Taylor are definitely going to end up engaged to each other. Devin's next two dates are only like 2 minutes worth of footage. So, quickly to go over them, his first one is with Britt, and they basically just say that they're going to have a mac and cheese contest because they both think that theirs is better than the other one. And then his second date is with Virginia, and they just kind of have headphones on, and she talks about how she was in a dance group back when she was young, and he asks her to sing, and she says she doesn't know how to. Next, we have Monica and Joey again, and they start off talking about The Sound of Music a lot. It's Monica's favorite movie, and then Joey apparently watched it a lot at his grandmother's house when his sister who passed away was in and out of the hospital. They really seem super relaxed with each other, and I honestly think that they're going to get together. And at first I thought Joey was kind of aloof, and I wasn't sure how much of it was like a front, but I think he might genuinely just be kind of like a goofy guy that way. He seems sweet. She seems to really like him a lot. So hopefully those two get together. And they also talk about how he is better with his money than his parents, and how he set up a retirement account and bought a property just because he knew his mom was really not great with money and that he'd have to take care of her. And Monica seems to love everything that she hears about him, so we'll see. We have another Dave date. Yay! It's Dave and Lauren again, and this time they talk about tattoos more than anything, and Dave says he has two that are his mom's handwriting and his home address tattooed on his leg, which I know he says it's because, that's where his parents lived, and his dad got rid of the house and his mom passed away there, but I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm not a Dave apologist. I really can't stand the dude. But having your home address tattooed on you is so awkward to me. But that's another thing for another day. And Lauren says that she and her friends went to Mexico and got FTP tattooed on them for fuck the patriarchy. And I honestly thought it was going to be a different FTP. And I was like, production is not going to put that in there. But nope, it was fuck the patriarchy. And then they talk about how, Dave brings up how if they get married together, they should go and get matching tattoos. And it's like, eek, don't get a matching tattoo with this man. Nobody get a matching tattoo with this man. And I'm honestly kind of getting sick of how much Dave has been in this episode. Guess what we get? Another Dave date. This one, he's with Molly again, and he opens up by saying, "You know what I've been thinking about? What are your tattoos?" And it's like, dude, you haven't been thinking about that. That's literally the topic you and Lauren just discussed in your last date. And Molly says that she has an ass tattoo, and Dave responds like this.
You got an ass tat?
Yeah.
Where?
Okay, now I see why production is including Dave so much in this episode. After his date with Molly, it goes back to showing the women's quarters, and Molly is talking about how much she likes Dave with Madison. And Lauren comes up, and they ask her who her top is, and she says she doesn't want to disclose that information right now, and Molly essentially has no problem letting her know who her favorite is, and it's Dave. And by the way Lauren's face looks after hearing that information, the wheels are turning. So clearly production wants to keep this going because there's gonna be a little bit of probably a dispute or a little bit of drama since Dave is clearly in the middle of both Molly and Lauren. I included the clip of Lauren's face after she hears the news about Molly being super mega into Dave. That's where the first episode of Season 8 Love is Blind ends. And I just want to say a quick thank you to anyone and everyone who watches this. it's my first time ever making or editing a video in any way, so I want to apologize for any of the audio being not consistent and if my cuts are not great. It was my first time ever doing this, so I appreciate it if you bared with me and you took the time to watch. I do plan on trying to work on making it better in the future, and I hope to see you again for the next episode. Bye.